Hello, everyone. It's Rachel Fielding here, and welcome back to Spirituality TV Live. We are so excited for you to be here, and I want to thank you for just being on this journey with us, because as you know, Spirituality TV was created to simply remind us all how very, very loved we are. And tonight I'm really excited to share with you a real treasure that I have found in my life, personal experience with Cathy, and I'm so excited to introduce you to her. So we'll do a little bit of housekeeping and then I'll dive right in. Spirituality TV, as you guys know, I'm a mom, and happy Mother's Day to all the mommies out there. I have two little ones, and I'm finding that Spirituality TV is such a passion and love of mine that works best for me is to do about 2 shows a month. And so if you keep an eye on your inbox, we'll always be updating you as to when the next live shows are happening and what's coming. And in between those 2 shows a month, on Sunday nights at 9, you will also get a chance to watch the replays and share the replays. As you know, Spirituality TV is completely free, and we're just here to share the journey together and to really awaken together because it's fun, and there's so many good nuggets we get to learn together. So speaking of good nuggets, let me share with you this one of the best kept secrets around. Her name is Cathy Holt. She actually lives in my area, so I've had the real pleasure of really being able to be in person in her classes. And Cathy represents heart speak, and heart speak is listening and speaking from the heart. And it's derived from nonviolent communication, and my experience of it is that it's so practical. It's really practical spirituality. It's really, you know, a lot of times we feel great, we feel spiritual, we get to take a walk, we feel connected to our source, we feel one, and then we get home, and then somebody triggers us, you know, and we get those old feelings and memories come back, and we think, how the heck did this happen? I was feeling great, and now I'm not. And Cathy just creates a great bridge, I feel, between the real inner spiritual bliss that we can find and being able to speak that and communicate to others from that loving place. And so without further ado, I want to share with you a really great treasure and a friend of mine, Cathy Holt. Welcome to the show, Cathy.
Thank you so much, Rachel. It's really a pleasure to interact with you in this way. And thank you for inviting me.
I wanted to get a little bit of a background on you personally, how you were drawn to HeartSpeak. I can tell, and I really sense it's a real passion of yours. Do you mind sharing with us your personal experience with I guess what I want to know is, what is it about HeartSpeak and nonviolent communication that really, really speaks to you, that it's become your passion and your mission?
Well, when I first encountered Marshall Rosenberg and his work, that was back in the 80s in California. And Marshall Rosenberg has such an amazing way. He can take anybody pretty much, whether it's a 2-year-old child, a 13-year-old teenager, a girl, a boy, you know, somebody's elderly mother, and he can really role play very convincingly these people as a stand-in when he's helping someone with a communication challenge. He can role play those people and you know, using the kind of language that they would be likely to use. He, of course, does a little bit of questioning to find out what the situation is. And then he is able to really teach the whole process of empathy and how it can work, how really listening deeply for another person's feelings and for their unmet needs underneath that really has the ability to transform these very normal, everyday conflicts that we get into. Not only that, but he has a history of having worked with people in other countries. He's worked with tribes in Africa that have been have had long-standing conflicts and wars. He's worked with so many different kinds of people and so many different countries that you know, he has he has stories even to tell about prisoners, working with prisoners who say, look, Marshall, the minute I get out of here, all I want to do is find that guy that really hurt me so bad, and I'm just going to do what I need to do to get my revenge on him, and I don't care if they put me right back in the slammer. Marshall's able to work with people like that and turn them around, help them to see that there's a better way to get their needs met. And his message can be very simple and very profound. He says one thing that really sticks with me. He says, you know, it's not about getting people to do what you want them to do. It's about what are their reasons for doing that. And we want to create the quality of connection between people so that everyone's needs can be met. And it's done not through the focus on the strategy of meeting the need, but really on focus. It's really all about focusing on connection, getting into the other person's shoes. So Marshall just had a huge effect on me. Not only did he teach all of these types of skills, but also what really got my attention was he taught a class one time, or probably several times, for people who were political activists, social change agents that wanted to make a difference in the world without all the adversarial, confrontational, making demands kind of a thing, but really using the same skills and tools of empathy to make the connection. And through making that connection, people's needs just seem to get met. There's some amazing stories that he told about work that he had done with a group of teenagers who were going to stage a walkout at their school because they said the principal had not been at all responsive to their needs. This was a black student group. And he said they said the principal had not been responsive to their demands, and so they were going to have a walkout. And it had to do with his rules around how they could wear their hair, how they could wear their clothes, and things like that. So Marshall got word of this, or got wind of it, through a guidance counselor, I think it was. And so he was able to talk to the students and say, you know, I really see you have some needs that aren't being met, and I have some ideas for how you'd be more likely to get a yes from the principal next time. And every one they actually grew their list from 20 demands to 35 requests, and they were able to present them to the principal in such a way, after they made a connection empathically with the principal, recognizing that the kinds of pressures that he was under, some of the feelings and needs he had, and then they presented these requests that were not worded confrontationally, and he immediately pretty much said yes to all 35. So a big conflict was avoided. Wow. The other person who's been a really big influence on my excitement about this, well, there have been many really, but most recently, Rita Marie Johnson is a teacher who has her particular approach includes elements of communication for connection from Marshall Rosenberg's nonviolent communication, and also it unites the use of heart-based insight, and that is what we can achieve through our conscious connection to our heart-brain coherence. And I find that these two things are extremely complementary, because most of the time we just cannot speak very well when we're triggered. When we're emotionally triggered, we're in the fight or flight response. And what we really need to do is to take that very brief pause, that brief moment, to just get back in touch with our hearts, to also bring our hearts and minds into the kind of alignment that can occur through what we call heart-brain coherence. And she learned that from the Institute of Heart Math, which is also another organization that I just think the world of, with the work that they do and the way they've promoted these simple skills to help people to find more peace.
So could you walk us through, Cathy? Let's have an example. You know, there's another person in your life, you know, whether it be a child or a spouse or someone, a coworker or a friend, And there just seems to be this conflict. Maybe it bubbles up and it never quite gets resolved, or you just kind of feel that angst between, you just feel like you really can't connect or communicate properly with this person if someone's feeling that way. Can you walk us through kind of a sense of how heart speak with the heart coherence, um, what that looks like, and really what different way is that to communicate versus the kind of that angst feeling? What would one do if they felt that way?
Yes, well, very often communication doesn't really occur in a very full way. We might have, we really don't know what the other person may be thinking, what they may be feeling or needing, and we have a tendency to guess what we think is going on, and our guess may be based on very limited evidence, so we can come to completely the wrong conclusion about a person's motives or feelings, and based upon that, we may feel very uncomfortable. We may want to avoid them. We may think, oh, this person just really doesn't like me. What's wrong with me? What's wrong with them? We go into a lot of stories. We go into a whole lot of stories in our minds based on usually incomplete communication. I think one of the biggest problems that we face nowadays is that so much communication, and I know you know this too, Rachel, so much communication is through email, through texting, and it's pretty remarkable that when they analyze what communication really is, something like 53% of it is body language and facial expression, and another 37% of it is tone of voice. And when you've removed both of those things, there's so many ways in which we can misconstrue, misinterpret another person's meaning. So that's one aspect that can really lead to misunderstandings. Now, I find that for me, the first step, whenever I'm uncomfortable in a communication, is I want to get really clear on my own feelings and needs. So this would be the practice of self-empathy. I'm going to take some time before I say anything to the other person. I'm going to take some time to just really identify, oh, I'm feeling so uncomfortable. Wow, I feel awkward. I feel confused when I'm in this person's presence. I don't know what to say, or I get this feeling that I get this impression that I'm not being respected. What's this all about? So I might just really take a look at what my feelings are, what are my needs, and what story have I told myself? That's a really key one. What is the basis of this? What is the story that's leading to these feelings? Because feelings and needs often are based on a misperception. So I may have a perceived need for respect, but the truth of the matter may be that the person highly respects me, but just doesn't show it in the ways that I expect or the ways that I want. And so I can jump to a conclusion. Anyway, once we can begin to give ourselves that empathy, that's the first step. Then, and only then, would I even begin to start to take a guess. What is that other person feeling and needing? It's kind of like I need to soothe myself enough so that I'm not in a triggered state of fight or flight. And one of the ways that we can do that is through the heart coherence. So I might start with giving myself some time out to just do my connecting with my heart, do a little slow breathing, really let myself relax into my feeling state and out of my head where all the judgments and interpretations and misconceptions are living and chasing each other around like a bunch of squirrels or a bunch of jackals, and come back to my heart, which really has the main purpose of being there to help me connect with myself, give myself a little compassion, and when I'm ready, I can begin to take a look at what might that other person be feeling and needing. Could it be that this person's been going through a really difficult week and it's all very personal? It's not something that they might be comfortable talking about with me. And so there's been some silence. Could it be that there's just a difference, a disagreement that this person has with something about me that they haven't told me about. In any case, they might be feeling some of the very same feelings I'm feeling. They might also be feeling a sense of discontent, dissatisfaction. Maybe they think that I'm not respecting them. So once I can express, even to write down on paper, some guesses as to that person's feelings and needs, then I might be better able to approach the person and say, I've noticed that I'm feeling a little uncomfortable, and I'm wondering, I'm feeling uncomfortable, and I'm not I'm not having my need for clarity met when we interact, or I'm not feeling a real connection with you the way I would like to, and so I might ask, I'm wondering if you're feeling frustrated, or I'm wondering if you're feeling disconnected, and then I might take a guess at what need would be behind that, what need the person might have. And I can be wrong. The great thing about empathy is you don't have to be right. The other person will correct you. So that's a beginning. That's a first step. Just being able to articulate a guess as to the other person's feelings and needs. And in fact, it might even be better to start with the other person rather than with myself. Many times that is what builds that connection much more readily, if I can begin with how the other person might be feeling and needing and what they might need, rather than starting with myself. And only once they've really been heard will they be completely available to hear me. So that can be a piece of it. I'm giving myself the heart coherence practice, and sometimes also within that, because our hearts and brains get so much more aligned through the practice of slow, connected heart breathing and letting myself go to a place of gratitude. Once that occurs, I have access to so much better thinking, so much more insight is likely to come in. And I could tell you about an experience that I had. I was working through a conflict with one of my brothers. And what it boiled down to was that he and I had not spoken for a while. I had sent him some emails. He had not answered. He lives in California. And the last time that I had been to visit him, I had brought up the subject of global warming, and he didn't really want to talk about it. He didn't want to talk about anything that might, I basically understand in retrospect that he was afraid of me being critical of his lifestyle. Anyway, so that led to some hard feelings that hadn't been resolved. And so I was focusing on that. What could I do to build that bridge of connection back to my brother? And so when I went to my heart and did the breathing and the focusing on appreciation, then I went into thinking about something that I really appreciated about my brother. And it is how he takes care of injured animals. He actually takes in a whole variety of animals that have been injured or are not able to make it out in the wild on their own, or not even be a domestic animal. And so he had a couple of goats, and he had some kind of a sheep, and several cats, a couple of dogs. He had quite a variety of animals, he and his wife. So I was getting in touch with how much I really appreciate that about my brother, and then all of a sudden the insight just hit me. The insight was, I have my way of loving and caring for nature, and he has his way. And that just really spoke to me so profoundly that it just kind of opened things up again. And I was able to send my brother a note in which I really took responsibility for, my my tendency to be preachy, which is the very thing he really does not like because it kind of makes him wrong. And I acknowledged him and thanked him for the way that he and his wife care for these stray animals, these injured animals. And I'm happy to say that the connection was reestablished through that. And a lot of that I do feel came from the heart insight that I had, the way that I was able to move to appreciation of him and to see that there was such a, so much that we really do share.
Wow, I really love that story because you went from something that was maybe not feeling so good and had a transformation. So could you walk us back up a little bit, Cathy? Because I really think that, before I met you and understood nonviolent communication, and I didn't really pay much attention to my own feelings and needs. And it was a real awakening for me to take the time. I somehow along the way learned, like, just kind of stuff it inside or don't pay attention to my feelings and needs. And it created a lot of, it's almost like a form of self-abuse, even though I had no idea I was doing it. I had no awareness of it. And you really brought the attention to feelings and needs and self-empathy. And so could you walk us through that and help us understand what are feelings and needs?
Yes. Well, one way to look at it is that when we have our beautiful, precious needs like equality, fairness, respect, connection, communication, when we have these needs that are very universal human needs, when the needs are met, we're going to feel a whole spectrum of feelings like joy, happiness, contentment, peace. And on the other side, when our needs are not met or when our perceived needs are not met, that is when we will feel frustration, anger, tension, discouragement. We might feel irritation, sadness, despair, all kinds of things. And that I would also add, it's not just when a need is met or not met, but also it has to do with the story that we've told ourselves. So for instance, in the work of Byron Katie, which I also really appreciate, she'll take a statement like, a person might make to their spouse, you just don't care about me. And then she'll say, well, ask yourself, is it true? My husband doesn't care about me. Is it true? And sometimes the person will have a whole lot of evidence that says, yes, of course, it can't be, it must be true because he does this and he does this and he does this. And he doesn't listen to me when I speak, and he, pays attention to other women or whatever it is that the husband does. So then if we stop and say, how do I feel when I think this thought that my husband doesn't care about me? Wow, feels horrible, leads to all kinds of other thoughts that are equally distressing. And so we identify that we're having a stressful thought. And really that in itself is a red flag. As soon as we can recognize that thought is a stressful thought, then we have the possibility to challenge the thought, not only by asking if it's true and how we feel when we think the thought, but what if I had never had the thought? How would I feel then? What if this thought never entered my mind? What if the actual opposite were true? Because then these turnarounds are, what if the truth is that it's me that's not being caring towards my husband? Or what if it's true that I'm not being caring towards myself? So we start playing with the pronouns in Byron Katie's work. And this also can be very liberating from an awful lot of stress. So coming back to the feelings and the needs, yes, recognizing that we have feelings, not suppressing them, not saying, oh, well, I just want to have good feelings, I don't want to have bad feelings. that would be sort of like saying, and I'm going to quote Carla McLaren here. She's got an excellent book called The Language of Emotions. She says, if we were to just say, well, I only want the good emotions, I don't want the bad ones, that's sort of like saying, I would just like to have a brain and a heart, thank you, but not those messy digestive organs. Oh, no, 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 no. Too gooey. You know, and she says every emotion has a gift to offer us. And that's the same thing that the poet Rumi said. He says, welcome them all into your house. Laugh and treat them as a guest. You know, whoever may show up. A joy, a depression, a meanness, whatever that, they're all parts of us. They all have some sort of a message or some sort of a gift to offer. And when we can begin to have that sort of an attitude towards our emotions rather than, oh, I just want to, you know, I just want to suppress all those bad things so that I can feel better, so let me go eat something or drink something or smoke something or whatever it is that people do to try to push down the emotions or to sidestep the emotions. It's a very prevalent thing. That's why we have a nation of workaholics, shopaholics, this, that, and the other addiction. You name it, we got it. And most of it is in the name of fleeing from feeling our emotions. And
most
then again,
of it is in the name of what? Most of it is in the name of.
Most of it is in the name of suppressing our emotions. Most of our addictions are about that. That we're not comfortable. We want to escape. We've been taught from a young age that some emotions are good and some emotions are bad. And I don't like to think of emotions that way. Feelings, I'd rather think of them as the feelings I have when my needs, my perceived needs are met, and the feelings I have when they are not met.
So if someone has been in the habit of suppressing their feelings and they're hearing us now and they're thinking, well, what's the first step for me to take so that I can be approaching my feelings and needs differently?
Okay, so the first step is to forgive yourself for having feelings, to recognize that your ability to feel feelings is a gift, and that your feelings have something valuable to offer you. Sometimes, for example, let's take anger. Very often when we're angry, it's because it's a red flag that's going up to alert us that we're having a judgmental thought or that we've had a boundary that's been violated. One of our important boundaries has been at least perceived to be violated. And so we need to sometimes take that information in and then do something with it. Maybe we need to stand up for ourselves. And that's very scary for a lot of people. Why? Very easy to know the answer, because often the only way that we know to stand up for ourselves is to get angry or to attack the other person verbally, to tell them, to tell them some sort of a judgmental thing about themselves, to evaluate them, put them down. That is so often the way that people think they are expressing their truth, you know? So to learn that there's another way to express your truth may be very, very important before a person even feels safe to express a feeling to another person. You see, if you just go to somebody and say, I'm so angry at you, and then you walk away, that's not heart speak. That's not nonviolent communication. You want to begin by telling the person what it was in their behavior as you perceived it, or just in whatever it was that you perceived. And you may have perceived something and interpreted it wrongly, interpreted it some other way. But to be able to say to someone, when I walked into the kitchen and I saw the dishes in the sink, I felt discouraged. I felt disappointed. I felt angry because I really need cooperation. I need mutuality. I would really like to have our agreements be honored. And you don't stop there, because the communication is not really complete until you also go to a request that is a doable, present moment oriented request. So rather than say, so from now on, would you wash the dishes before I get home? No. that's not going to really lead to the result you want. Sometimes we don't even go to the thing that we really want yet. First, we might want to just request, would you be willing to tell me what you've heard me say so far? Or would you be willing to share how you feel when, if we would have a discussion about this? Could we have a discussion about how the dishes are getting done? You see, so you're not automatically going to what you want, but you want to be sure that you're bringing that other person with you. And again,
step, right?
And again, before we even go there, we might even increase our chances of getting a connection if we take a look at the person and say, "Wow, it looks like you're looking kind of tired today. I'm wondering if you're really having a need for some rest and relaxation, because you don't want to pick a bad moment to bring up this topic. So you might want to start with some empathy and just to see if the person is open to hearing how you feel and what you need, or whether there might be a better time to do that."
And Cathy, I think we'd all heard the word empathy, and I wanted to share a little bit about you introduced me to empathy, and I wanted to share this little experience. I met you and felt so drawn to working with you, and you were offering the course by Rita Marie Johnson, which is involves the heart coherence and a lot of what we're talking about, understanding our feelings and our needs and our learning how to have empathy with each other. And I honestly took the class because I wanted to learn how to, first of all, be able to really speak what I needed. I noticed that I would often just I didn't know how to communicate properly, so I would often just kind of zip my mouth and not say what I needed to say, and then my needs wouldn't get met, and then I would feel very upset. It would kind of, it just felt like there had to be a better way. So that's the reason I took the class. I could learn how to speak with basically more peace. But what surprised me about the class was we went to your home. I'm not sure how many weeks it was, but week after week. And what we practiced primarily, we would practice going to our heart. But what we practiced primarily was empathy. And I think it was the second or third. It must have been like the third class. And I thought, boy, what we're doing for a straight hour is basically empathy. And I needed to sort of almost physically experience, all this time devoted to empathy. And it clicked with me, maybe this is more important than I realized. So I had the experience of, in fact, it was my best friend. It was my dearest friend in the world. I felt, that this friend, was my best friend. And my best friend was there, the only person I invited besides my partner to be there with the birth of my child. We were very, very close. And sort of out of the blue, she stopped talking to me and stopped communicating with me. And it was painful. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to do. There was a lot of silence. I just didn't know what to do, but I was really suffering inside. And then one day, it actually came to a head because we got to see each other in person. It had been years, and I was so excited. And there still was this great vast. It was like our love for each other just didn't seem to be there, and it was devastating to me. Oh. But I knew empathy, and so in the midst of this really devastating feelings I was having, I began to practice empathy for my friend, and I began to just guess, because as you say, it's guessing, right? So we don't always, we don't know for sure what someone else is thinking and feeling and what their feelings and needs are, but I just began to guess. I just came from that place of what might she be feeling and thinking, and the insights were just tremendous. And then taking that to the heart and just getting, like you said, that insight, we all get insights when we get this thought or idea that's like, bing, it's like a light bulb above our heads, and it's like, oh, I didn't even think of that. Or as soon as you have that thought, you feel such clarity. And I remember I was laying in the hotel room bed and just having empathy. And I wouldn't even say that empathy began with the thought of love. I think we kind of connect empathy with love. And it wasn't forcing myself to have loving thoughts in a situation where I felt painful at first. It was just guessing, literally just placing myself in her shoes. And the result was that I had tremendous peace. We didn't speak again after that, but I had such resolve and peace in my heart. And I am pleased to say now, over the time has passed, I think because I was able to heal with that self-empathy and have some understanding, that we were able to now rekindle our friendship, which is I'm so grateful for. But I had to come to peace, and it was that empathy that brought me to peace. And so I just wanted to highlight the power of empathy because I think it can be easy to kind of gloss over. You know, we have empathy for each other, but empathy I'm finding is when we get angry or when I get angry, it's often because there's a misguided sense of power. It's like I'm feeling powerless and I need to reclaim my power and I feel angry. What I was so shocked and surprised to learn was that empathy is where that real power lies. And as soon as I'm stepping into that other person's shoes, I don't feel powerless. I actually feel powerful from a loving place. And so it's actually really easy to do. It's not something that you have to force yourself to feel good or think happy thoughts. It's just a sort of a guessing game. So I just wanted to share that experience because empathy, and also I wanted to share the power of it with parenting. There's a remarkable video and book out called The Happiest Toddler on the Block. And really what it is he teaches you when your child goes into tantrum that you are, a lot of parents just want to gloss over it or point to, oh, look at the bird in the sky when your child's very emotional. And what he says is to do the opposite, is to actually connect with them, to look them in the eye. If they're upset, to actually mirror some of those words and those feelings and actually begin to feel in your own self what they might be feeling. And you would think someone sprinkled pixie dust over your tantruming child, because when you do this, your child will like look at you. There's an instant connection. When you have empathy, there's this instant connection that just diffuses all of that judgment and disconnection and conflict that we might feel with the other person. So I just wanted to take a minute, Cathy, to highlight empathy and what my personal experience has been. Would you like to share, what empathy means to you and your experience with it?
Wow, I'm just taking that in. That's a beautiful one about mirroring it back to your toddler, to your little kids, and letting them know you really get it, how they feel. It's so important. And I was just reminded of Brene Brown. She talks about the look at the bunny strategy, that parents use with kids. It's like how you get the message that your feelings aren't okay is because your parents try to distract you and move you into some other feeling state. Oh, come on, look over here. Look at the happy little bunny, and then they're supposed to smile and be all happy again without ever going through their feelings or ever really being acknowledged for what they felt and what they didn't, for what they might have been needing. So I just love that what you're saying about the happiest toddler on the block. I'd like to read that now that you said that's in there, mirroring back how upset they are to them, letting them know, yes, you get it. They're wanting to communicate to you, and they need to know that you got their message, and that's it, really. That is it so much. It's kind of like you've probably noticed that sometimes a child won't cry unless there's an audience, and it makes you think, you could easily say, oh, well, then they weren't really hurt. But it's more like there's a reason why the crying might occur when mommy's there, because there's more chance that mommy will understand, hey, I've been hurt. I need some comforting, So that's the kind of thing. I was just also remembering a time when I was with a young girl. There were several girls around the same age. They were preteens, and I observed one of them walk over to this one girl who was maybe 12 or so, and said to her, "Well, we've decided that we're not going to play with you today." And then I just saw this young girl, her shoulders kind of sagged like that. She put her head down, and she just looked so sad, and started to walk away. At which point I just followed her. I didn't know her real well, but I got down to where I could look her in the eye, and I said to her, "I'm guessing that you're feeling really sad because you would have liked to have been included with the other girls. Is that right?" And she looked at me for a minute, and she said yes, very sadly. And then she gave me a big hug, and she smiled. And I was startled because the transformation was so fast. As soon as she was really heard, her feelings were free to go. That was the power of empathy.
Oh, it really is that magical. It really is something, isn't it?
Yeah. Or here's another way to say it. And this is something I learned from Liz Teska. She said, "If I can see you coming over to me, I'm more likely to go over to where you are." Empathy shows someone's making an effort to come over to where we are, to be there with us, to understand our experience.
Well, I think it taps into what is so obvious and so in front of us that we can really overlook it is our deep, our most pressing need is a need of connection.
Yes.
That we have, it's like we really understand ourselves and know ourselves through connection with one another, right?
Right, and other people can do this very valuable service of mirroring back to us. Even when we can't, if I can't articulate my own feelings and needs in the moment because I'm so focused on, the circumstance, or because I'm so focused on blaming someone else or whatever I might be doing, and if someone is there for me and can just mirror back what they see, what they perceive me to be feeling and needing, my goodness, it really helps me to connect with myself and to ground, and then I feel so seen. I feel my need for being seen and heard is really met, and that connection is such a valuable thing we can do, so much more valuable than all the fixes and all the good advice that is so second nature to most of us. We think, oh, empathy, wow, the person lost their keys, well, let me go help them find their key, before we even think about, reflecting back the person's emotional state. We want to jump straight into solving the problem to make it go away so they'll feel good again, right?
Right. Right. So that's a great point, Cathy, is that we have this tendency to just want to fix. We hear somebody, we feel love towards them. We actually feel empathy, but the words that come out jump to the advice or the trying to fix it. So could you just share a little bit more about empathy as far as mirroring? If I'm telling you a story that's, I'm feeling sad and I'm feeling, disconnected and confused, could you give me an example of what mirroring back? You did give us an example with that young lady. Could you speak a little bit more about why it's so important to simply mirror versus try to fix?
Well, in truth, people really want the empowerment of being able to solve their own problems. They don't want someone else's advice. On rare occasions, someone will want our advice. More rare than we would like to think, I guess. And yet, if we put ourselves in their shoes, don't we want to have the empowerment of being able to come up with our own solutions most of the time? And yet we want someone who's there with the ability to be present and to be clear and calm in the face of our upsetness, and just to mirror back gently what it was. And when we see ourselves in that mirror, it helps us to go deeper. It's like, well, I might have only been in touch with my anger, but as soon as somebody mirrors back that they're seeing that, I might be able to go into my sadness. I might be able to go into my unfulfilled expectations that, that connect up to a deep well of sadness and maybe even despair. So having that other person there to mirror back to me really helps me move through and access these feeling states, which normally I wouldn't take the time. I just wouldn't give myself that gift of that much time sitting down, being with myself, being with a feeling, journaling about it. Occasionally I'll do that, but believe me, it sure helps me if somebody's there and available to, to give me that empathy. Really helps me to get much more deeply into what's really going on for me.
So what if you don't have somebody there? What if you yourself need empathy and there isn't anybody there that is watching the show? You don't have a friend that's watched the show and they don't know how to give you empathy. What do we do when we're having these feelings? How do we give ourselves empathy?
Well, yes, and I do want to say that I think it's a great idea to have a number of empathy buddies that you can pick up the telephone and call. You probably might not find that your most ideal empathy buddy is sharing the same roof with you, but that doesn't mean that you couldn't have some people that you might meet, for instance, in my empathy practice group, which meets on the third Tuesday of each month. So that will be May 20th this month. You might meet people there that would say, yes, I'd be glad to exchange phone numbers with you, and here are some good times to reach me. If you just would like a little empathy by phone, I'll do my very best to guess your feelings and needs, if you'll do that back for me sometime. So that said, yes, self-empathy is a great thing too. And it has a lot to do with being able to give ourselves permission that it's okay to feel the whole full spectrum. That I'm not supposed to be perfect. I'm not supposed to be something, angelic rather than human. And, to also inquire if there is a lot of anger that I'm experiencing, what rule of mine did somebody break? Or what is the should that's going on in my head? What is it that they should do or shouldn't do, shouldn't have done, that is generating my anger? Because very often that's where anger is going to come from. That we have told ourselves a story they shouldn't do it. So being in that process of inquiry, and I again recommend Byron Katie there, highly recommend, because any thought that is causing you stress, you can take a look at it and ask if it's true. And just by looking at how you feel when you believe that thought, well, how would it be if I didn't believe that thought? Or is there some other way that I could look at this? So I strongly recommend that you, at least for beginners, to the process of the feelings and needs, that you keep a list with you. I have a little mini book that has a couple of pages devoted to feelings and a page devoted to needs. And those can be handy, like little training wheels, when people are beginning to inquire, well, what am I feeling? I also highly recommend that you take some slow, deep breaths, because when we're feeling stressed, when we're feeling overwhelmed, or when we have a lot of strong feelings that we're pushing down or trying to distract from, it helps us a lot to come back to our bodies. Notice, where in my body do I feel this? What is it that I feel in my body? Sometimes you may not be able to identify an emotion such as, oh, I'm feeling discouraged. Instead, what you may feel is a sinking sense in the pit of your stomach. That may be the alert. You may not be in touch with the fact that you're afraid or nervous, but what you instead notice is that your palms are a little sweaty, or that you're having a little shakiness. You see, so it's what's in your body. We can come back to our bodies because our bodies don't lie. We can lie to ourselves very effectively at least for a while, about feeling or not feeling, but our bodies will hold those feelings for us.
Okay, Cathy, I'm really wanting to bring this home. So will you do us a favor? I'm going to take a few extra minutes here, and I want to ask you, Cathy, to walk us through. I know Rita Marie Johnson has a beautiful step-by-step process, and so we've been talking about this together, and I'm guessing that a lot of you that are watching are really it almost feels like being unlocked. That's what it feels like for me. Like maybe things that were bottled up. You're beginning to maybe feel like you can unlock, and there's freedom in how to feel and how to communicate how you're feeling and how to have empathy for others. And so I really want to give them a tool, Cathy. I know that there's lots of tools that you can, resources you can guide them to, but I want to give them something right here, right now. So I want to invite everybody watching to grab a pen and a paper to do it right now, to do it. Because this pen and the paper you will be shocked at how transformational these tools are. So get your pen and your paper. And I'd like you to walk us through, Cathy. I know it's going to take a little bit of time because I want to introduce them to the heart coherence too, but I know that everybody here can grasp these simple steps and apply them right away because they're very simple, and I've been amazed at how practical. I mean, it's like when you're in that confusion state, like you just something happens and you just have all these feelings and emotions. It's so nice to have this step by step to go through. So you've got your pen and paper now. I'm going to hand it to you, Cathy, to walk us through those steps. The first one. Does that okay with you, Cathy?
I'll tell you what. How about if we start with the heart coherence?
Okay.
All right, because it's always a good place to start. So before we go into a little practice of it, and we'll all do this together, I'm going to invite our listeners to think of one thing that is very easy for them to appreciate. It could be a pet, it could be a person, it could be a beautiful tree, it could be a waterfall or a sunset, whatever just puts a big smile in your heart and just lifts you into a state of gratitude. Just burst your heart open into joy, gratitude, and love. That's what we're going for. And I'll tell you what it is for me. It's my cat. Oh my goodness. Every morning my cat is on the bed and she curls up and nestles right up, usually with her head on my shoulder and one paw on my chest. And that is the cuddliest cat I've ever had. She is just a darling. And I can just feel her emanating love. So it's very easy for me to feel joy and gratitude when I just think about my honey cat. For other people, it might be their dog. It could be their grandchild. And, if you touch any part of your body, like, for instance, touch your nose, where's your thought? You're thinking about your nose. Now touch your shoulder. You're thinking about your shoulder. Touch your head. Thinking about your head. Now touch your heart. Touch your chest, right over your heart. And let's just keep our focus right there on the heart. Let your attention drop down, down, down from the mind, down to the heart. And we're going to begin to breathe very slowly and rhythmically. As I breathe in, I can feel my heart expanding. And as I breathe out, I can feel my shoulders and jaws relax. And I like the infinity symbol. I like to imagine that as I breathe in, breathing in through the top of my heart in a sort kind of a loop, and then as I breathe out, I'm going to just breathe right across to you, Rachel. Breathe over to the top of your heart, and I'm just going to breathe in a little bit of your heart into mine. And with my next out breath, I'm going to send you a little bit of my heart energy. So we're just making a big loop. It's just the infinity of breath. It's the process of giving and receiving. Breathing in, very slowly, feeling our heart. Breathing out, extending gratitude to another person. And as you're doing this slow breathing, just let yourself fill up with the feeling of gratitude that you have for that person, pet, beautiful place, whatever it is. As we're doing this, we are going into the state of heart-brain coherence. That is the state where everything comes into alignment. Everything in our body works better because our heart is like the master oscillator. It's the master clock in a big room full of clocks. It's the one that has the strongest electromagnetic signal, 5,000 times more powerful than the electromagnetic signal of the brain. And more messages go from the brain to the heart than vice versa. I'm sorry, from the heart to the brain than vice versa. More messages are sent from our hearts, which have 60% neuronal cells. That means nerve cells. A fact that a lot of people don't really get when they simply think of the heart as a pump or simply think of the heart in a sentimental way, not realizing that the heart has its own intelligence and that intelligence is what was always designed to be governing the body. So we can release so much stress and change our hormonal picture by breathing into the heart, focusing on the feelings of gratitude, and by continuing to practice this skill, we will really be benefiting our physical and emotional health.
Cathy, I have to interrupt for a moment. My baby girl's needs a little assistance, so I'm going to, if you wouldn't mind, just walking them through the rest of the steps, and I'll be back in a minute or so.
You bet.
Thanks, Cathy.
Okay. So the next step, after we've come to this state of heart-mind coherence, is that we're going to be examining our own inner feelings and needs. We're going to be focusing on what do I feel and what do I need. When we're in the state of heart-brain coherence, it's actually possible for us to ask, what is it that my heart wants me to know? And we can attain an insight from that process, which may very much help us in our process of communication. We may suddenly realize, so that's what I really need to communicate to that person. Suddenly my heart just told me. My heart just communicated that to me. So accessing the superior form of insight and intelligence that we can have when we really are connected with our heart, when we're in coherence between the mind and the heart. That is one of the great gifts from Rita Marie Johnson's teaching and from Heart Math. So we access that heart wisdom, that heart insight, and that informs our communication with the other person. Can you imagine what communication would be like and how it would be transformed if every time before we approach a person, whether it's a difficult situation or just an everyday situation, if every time we would just stop, even for 1 minute, just do a few little practices of heart breathing, accessing our heart-brain coherence and intuition, that could make all the difference. So that's what I would recommend. And being in touch with our own feelings and needs first, and without speaking those, then we get in touch with our best guess, and it's always a guess, a respectful guess, as to the other person's feelings and needs. When we approach the person, we start by tuning in with them. Maybe we take a breath and send our heart out like an ambassador to their heart. Breathe in a little of what is present in them before we even guess. So I'm seeing that you're looking a little overwhelmed or tired. I'm wondering if you're needing some rest or some peace. whatever it is that we say to them. And then they may correct us. We may not be right. But then once they have experienced our genuine caring and concern in the form of an empathic guest, they may be much more willing to hear our truth. So we can say, we can communicate what it is that we need or want them to know, and we make a request. And I didn't speak much about requests, but we want to request something that is doable and specific. We don't want to ask a person to be a certain way. We don't want to say something like, I want you to be more respectful, or I want you to be more considerate or loving or compassionate or whatever, because that's not going to really give enough information. And besides, their interpretation of what would be compassionate may not be at all what we had in mind. For instance, a wife may say to her husband, well, sweetheart, I want to know that you love me. So what does he do? He brings her flowers. Well, some women might take that as a message of love, but maybe what she really wants is for him to say the words, I love you. Or maybe what she really wants is more cuddling and kisses and affection. You see, so we need to ask for what we want, and then we're more likely to get it. The woman who said to her husband, honey, I don't want you spending, she says, honey, I don't feel happy when you're spending every day working at the office. Don't work at the office every night after work. She didn't say, I'd really like you to be home with me and the kids. So he thinks about it and he says, she wants me to have more recreation. He joins a bowling league, and then he's not home, but for a different reason. So she didn't get her need met because she didn't speak what was true for her. She didn't really ask for what she wanted. She made an assumption. So we want to be very specific. We want to use the positive rather than the negative. So rather than saying don't do something, we say what we do want them to do. Please touch the dog more gently instead of don't hit the dog. And that sounds like maybe kind of obvious to some folks, and yet be surprised how many times it's really a very different style communicating. So I've touched on the heart coherence, heart-brain coherence, the self-empathy, empathy to the other, the neutral observation. We could go into more, but tell me, what would you like me to focus on this time?
Yeah, thank you, Cathy, and thank you for bearing with me when I had to leave for a minute there. I think that just that simple observation, I think just you may have used the analogy of a video camera. I think that was really helpful to know that too. We create such stories that to just back up a minute and really, and for me it takes work to what would a video camera see without all the judgments that we lay. We're so used to doing it that we just take it for granted. And so backing up and trying to be as neutral as possible and see what's happening. One time I did that. I was feeling all these feelings about my partner, and he would come home and he didn't seem happy, and I would take it personal and all these stories. And when I backed up and looked at it with a video camera, I realized that the thing I was upset about was that his face was like this, and I wanted this. It was that simple. It was just that the face was here. That was the neutral. That's what a video camera would see. That's when I see your face this way, versus you're not happy, you don't love me, all that story that we add to it. So I think it's important to really bring it back to that video camera. So what I wanted to do now, Cathy, and thank you. I could go on and on with you with this because we've got a question here from Florida about, this is the first time this person has really gotten connected with this, and it's really become something he's really interested in. So what would be the next step if somebody's really resonating with you and wanting to learn how to really apply this to their life and learn more about it.
Wonderful. Well, welcome, and I'm really happy someone from Florida is watching. And I did want to say that I can offer telephone coaching no matter where you are in the country. Anyone who may have a pressing issue that is on their mind and they would like to get some private confidential telephone coaching, that is something that we can arrange. You can contact me. I have a website which is www.heartspeakpeace.com. And you can learn a lot more just by reading the articles in my blog. There are several posted there. Also, of course, I highly recommend any books by Marshall Rosenberg. His classic, Nonviolent Communication, A Language of Life. There are books for people who may be parents who would really like to explore more about how to apply this to parenting. There's a book called Respectful Parents, Respectful Kids. There are books about specific things, like Marshall Rosenberg has a book about anger called Speaking Peace in a World of Conflict. And Rita Marie Johnson will have a book coming out actually this fall. Right now, that book is still in press. But as far as other resources, the Center for Nonviolent Communication, cnvc.org, has an excellent website with just a ton of great resources there. Everything from the NVC Academy with Mickey Cashton. She's got a lot of YouTubes out. There's YouTubes of Marshall Rosenberg, sometimes working with his wonderful puppets. Such a talented teacher that he is. So many ways that you can plunge in and start to avail yourself of the resources that are out there online or in your library or bookstore.
Oh,
I think
I was muted. Yeah, I was muted. Sorry. I just such a wealth of information to dive into. So it's like, welcome to this world. And I wanted to just reiterate, Cathy, that being able to work with you personally is I've read books and watched videos, and there really is a lot on YouTube. Marshall Rosenberg, some of his, I think it's 2-hour-long sort of premiere video is actually on YouTube. I've had the honor of having all that information. But there's something different about being able to work directly with you. And so I recommend, if you're thinking about it, visit Cathy's website. It's actually down below this TV screen. There's a link to her website. And if you click on it now, you'll just open it in a new window. You won't lose the show right now. So there's, Cathy, you have your book. There's an ebook, and then you also sell the pamphlet.
That's right. So people can receive in exchange for your email address. You can receive the download of my little mini book. It won't be in a format that you can put in your pocket, but if you would really like to have that type of a formatted book, I'll be happy to mail you one. You just have to pay for it with your PayPal or contact me if you would like more than one copy. And that little book is about 24 pages with various fill-in-the-blanks exercises. I call it the Cliff Notes for nonviolent communication.
Is it the little booklet, same booklet that I have, that I've received from you?
It's an updated version.
It's an updated version.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let me give me a second. Let me grab it. I always have it on hand. It's the handiest thing.
Boy.
Hold on.
So this little book, I'll hold it up here for you. There it is.
Okay. Thank you for bearing with me. Yes, yes. I want you guys to see. I actually sometimes just go in, and there's some beautiful, Cathy's got an even updated one that she'll be, that you can buy from her. but there's some just incredible quotes in the beginning. Sometimes I just meditate on these quotes. Like, here's one. The goal of communication is to create the quality of connection that allows for everyone's needs to be met. I think in sort of an old way of communicating, or what we want to call maybe even a violent way of communicating, is there's a sense of like that I can feel. It's like it's either me or you. It's like either I'm going to get my needs met, or you're going to get your needs met. Kind of this like this eat or be eaten.
The zero sum game. It's yours or mine, not both.
Mm. So this book it's little, it's easy to have, and there's also what I also love is you've got feelings. You can see here. You've got lists of feelings, and when we're having self-empathy and empathy for others, sometimes it's hard to put your finger on what you're feeling. So to be able to see a list of your feelings and be able to, I'm feeling aggravated. Be able to see the words can be really helpful. So it's, to have all this information is, in theory, is great, but it's really what we need to apply this is the practicality, and that's why I think this book is in other words, you need to have it.
It's just a click away. Just go to the website and you can access it for free.
And the other thing is at the very back there is this. It says OFNR, and it is the real short Cliff Note version of how to observe, how to recognize your feelings, how to recognize needs, and recognize what your request is. So it's able to some real tools, and so I recommend getting in touch with Cathy, because aren't you offering free initial connection if someone's calling you and they're wanting to learn more?
Yes, if somebody would like to have a get acquainted phone call, my phone number is 828-545-9681. But the best way to reach me is actually through email. CATHYF, as in Francis, HOLT, Cathy F. Holt, @gmail.com.
Excellent. Excellent. And you do mediation as well.
That's correct. I do offer mediations that are, again, utilizing these same set of skills, because I find that when a person's needs especially, but when their feelings and needs are truly understood and reflected back by the other person, there's kind of a transformation that occurs. People aren't focusing on their positions. They're focusing on the feelings and the needs, and the ways to meet those needs can emerge that neither one would have thought of before. That's the part that I really love about it, is that when people really get connected to their hearts, new ways of meeting needs that can meet, satisfy everybody's concerns can actually emerge.
Do you offer those mediations, Cathy, over the phone as well, or is that
No? Mediation is something that I only do in person.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Great. So I think we're going to close everything out. Is there anything else? Any final words, Cathy, that you would like to share?
Well, I will give a quote from Thich Nhat Hanh, which is one of my favorite. He is a Vietnamese Buddhist monk who teaches the importance of breathing. He says, "Go slowly, breathe, and smile." And when we're smiling, we can smile to our hearts.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Cathy.
Thank you.
This sharing from you, you're just a breath of fresh air. I really appreciate everything you've done for me personally. I mean, you've done a mediation. You've come to my home. You've worked with me and my partner and helped us to uncover. It almost seems like there's a cloud sometimes between someone you're trying to connect with, and by just being, it's almost so simple that it's to just recognize feelings and needs. I really believe that you helped really save our family, and so the work that you're doing is profound, and I'm so grateful from the bottom of my heart for all that you've shared with me and my family and with our audience here, and I really encourage anybody who's, even if you feel that slight nudge to learn more but you're not sure where to begin, go to heartspeakpeace.com. Right below the our video screen here and click on it, and you can get the free book and also free book PDF that you can download, and also schedule a free getting to know, getting acquainted call with Cathy, because she really is the best kept secret, and hopefully we'll spread the word. And I
Thank you so much for helping me get the word out.
You're welcome. It's just it's good news, and it's practical, very useful. And I want everyone to know, as far as Spirituality TV, to stay tuned. Like I said, we're going to do 2 shows a month, and stay tuned in your inbox. And if you're paying attention to your emails, you will always pay attention. You will always be alerted as to when our next live show is. So have a beautiful
And
night.
Rachel,
Yes.
I just wanted to say it was such a pleasure to work with you, because you were so open and so ready and willing to use the tools and the skills.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. Have a beautiful night, Cathy.
Blessings. Thank you.
Namaste.